today's presentation is going to review recruiting active and passive candidates. If organizations want to find the best talent available in the workforce, they need to tailor their recruitment strategy to appeal to different types of candidates. So today's presentation will discuss how to find both types of talent and how they should be recruited. First, a quick introduction. I'm Jen Picard, and I'm in charge of marketing for Bright Recruiter. At Bright, we aim to make the hiring process a little more efficient by connecting job seekers to their best opportunities and employers to their top prospects. Our machine learning algorithm, called the Bright Score, examines thousands of data points to find the best fit between the job seekers and your job opening. In the recruitment space, we're constantly hearing about active versus passive candidates, and to complicate things a little bit further, we're also starting to hear about semi-active candidates and tiptoers and a whole lot of other kinds of candidates that are somewhere in between active and passive. But the fact of the matter is that you're really just trying to find your best candidate, and that candidate may be unemployed. They might be employed but currently looking. They could be employed but not looking, and then they could also be employed and not open to a new opportunity at this time. And you're really not going to know until you find and speak with those people where your best candidates are. So the purpose of this webinar is to discuss the different types of candidates and how to effectively find, recruit, and hire each. So we'll start with a definition of active candidates. For the purpose of this webinar, we're going to say that an active candidate is actively looking for work. This doesn't necessarily mean that this candidate is unemployed, but it can. This group is looking for a new opportunity for a variety of reasons. Perhaps they're employed and they're just concerned about their current employer's stability, or they're looking to take on more responsibility. They might be unemployed. Maybe their job was outsourced or their employer went completely out of business. So, there's a lot of reasons that active candidates are looking for a position right now. And, they shouldn't be discounted, and people shouldn't think that they're less qualified than those passive candidates just for, reasons that might be beyond their control. So an estimated 23% of people fall into the category of active candidates. And with 155 million people in today's U.S. workforce, that's about 36 million. A recent career Crossroads survey found that 80% of hires actually come from this category. So 80% of hires come from 23% of the workforce, those active candidates. And this is the group of people that will apply to your jobs if they feel that it would be a good fit. So the most common way today employers are reaching out to these active job seekers is with a job posting. And we're finding that the average response is about 150 to 200 applications per post. So by optimizing your job postings with keywords and sharing them on social media, you make your jobs a little bit easier to find. But a common complaint we hear from recruiters is the number of unqualified candidates, or even just the sheer volume of candidates that they receive from these job postings, which is perhaps why many have moved a little more toward proactive candidate sourcing. Sourcing active candidates can be an alternative to job postings, or they can supplement that approach to bring you even more qualified candidates. Active candidates are constantly working on their personal brands. They're submitting their resume, and they can be pretty easy to find online. They're out there saying, hey, I'm looking for a job, and these are my skills and qualifications. So you can search for them on social media. You can search for them through your search engines. And to make it even easier to find these candidates, Bright has created an automated sourcing solution which takes your job description and matches it with active candidates in our database. All of our candidates have actively searched for a job in the past 30 days, so they're a little bit more receptive to your message. Something to note about these active candidates is that actually 2/3 of active candidates are currently employed. So it's important that you make it easy for them to apply. Some argue that a tedious application process will weed out candidates, but what they don't realize is that it's the best candidates they lose. So try and take yourself through your application process to make sure that it's quick and easy to apply. You also want to make sure you're including information in your job postings and other places online about why your company is such a great place to work. This will encourage your employed candidates to apply because maybe you're offering a flexible interviewing option such as a video interview. Maybe you have a great management training program, and these things are going to make those top active candidates want to apply to your jobs instead of just kind of looking at your job posting and moving on to the next one. So although you may receive a high volume of applications from your job postings and through your active sourcing, you want to make sure that you have an effective follow-up program in place to take care of all of these candidates that are so interested in speaking to you. So go ahead and move on to the semi-active candidates. It's just a little step down from the active. So semi-active candidates have been called tiptoers, they're called networkers, and these are the people that are not actually applying for jobs, but are preparing to move. They're actively looking, and they're asking their networks about opportunities. So this group makes up about 14% of the workforce at any given time. And they might be looking to move just because they've had it with their current employer. They don't see advancement opportunities, but maybe they're not really ready to make that move yet. Maybe they just kind of want to put some feelers out and see what the marketplace looks like. They know it's hard to find a job right now. But they're reaching out to their friends and they're saying, hey, what is there available for me? So according to a recent Career Builder survey, 66% of the respondents said that they thought about looking for a new job within 6 months before actively searching. So people are thinking about making a move for a long time, but they're not actually applying for jobs. They're not putting their resume out there. They're not saying on social media, hey, come find me, I want to work for you. So they're a little bit harder to find. But what they are doing is they're reaching out to their friends. So it's important that your employees are aware of your open positions that might be a good fit, and then maybe they'll feel compelled to refer their friends. Get to these people as soon as they start looking. This is a huge advantage. So an active employee referral program is going to be your best bet for finding these semi-active candidates. You have to keep in mind that they may not have their resume ready. A good candidate may have just come on the market yesterday. Maybe they had a fight with their boss. They don't have a resume ready, but they would be open to speaking with you, and they might be your perfect candidate. So you don't want to miss out on that candidate just because they don't have a resume. You might want to come up with an alternative way for them to apply for the position. So maybe it's an online profile. Maybe you accept their Bright.com profile or allow them to apply with LinkedIn or with Facebook. You really just don't want to miss out on this great candidate because they don't have a resume, and making them submit one may mean that you lose them to a competitor. The Career Builder survey also found that, on average, job candidates consult nearly 15 resources per job search, and that's before they even decide to apply for a job. So that'll be your company career site, your Facebook page, online job boards, employer review sites like Glassdoor, their personal and professional networks, and staffing and recruiting firms. So as we discussed with the active candidates, it's also important to have a solid web presence and an employment brand to reach out to these semi-active candidates and get them interested in your company. So let's go ahead and move on to discuss the passive candidates now. A passive candidate is employed but not currently looking for a new opportunity. This group accounts for about 63% of the workforce, although only slightly more than half of them would consider a new opportunity. So the benefit to a passive candidate is obviously that they're not looking for a new opportunity right now, and they probably won't be interviewing with anybody else. So your competition for their attention will be very low. And with 37% of the workforce not looking for a new job, but willing to discuss a new opportunity, proactive sourcing is going to be your best bet for finding this group. It can be difficult to distinguish a passive candidate who is interested in speaking to you from one that's not, so you should be really careful about how you reach out to people you find through proactive sourcing. Since they haven't expressed any interest in your company so far, you want to get them excited about speaking with you. So your initial outreach should include an introduction to you and to your company. It should provide some reasons why you're reaching out and why this move would benefit the candidate. So show them why your jobs are relevant to their experience. Tell them which aspects of their resume or their background, based on however you found them, make them a good fit, and show why it's a smart career move. So what you want to do here is convert the job into a career move. Stress the job's importance, the key projects, and the tasks. Because these passive candidates, they're happy where they are. If they weren't happy, they would be looking for something else. So you're really going to have to convince them that your opportunity and your company and the position you're offering them is going to get them somewhere that they couldn't with their current opportunity. So an employee referral program can also be a great tool for recruiting these passive candidates. So aside from, your Boolean searches using LinkedIn and social media to source these candidates, you ask your employees to source candidates on your behalf. You turn your employees into an army of recruiters to show how great it is to work for your company because you have, let's say, a great management training program, or you offer daycare, or something that people are interested in. Your HR department doesn't have to be the only part of the organization that's proactively sourcing passive candidates for you. So make sure that you utilize, all of your resources. Do your own sourcing, but have your employees out there doing some sourcing for you as well. And no matter how you find your passive candidates, keep in mind that they most likely won't have a resume handy. So these, again, are people that are employed and they're not looking. So it really doesn't make sense that their resume would be updated. If they did have an updated resume, they probably are looking. And then you lose the benefit of, having that passive candidate in your back pocket. So you definitely want to offer them an alternative way to share their background. And you probably also want to do away with the application altogether. You have to remember here that you found them. You must have found something about them that made you want to reach out. So let them know what that is when you talk to them. And also, you don't want to assume that they're interested in speaking with you because they could be part of that 26% of the workforce that's not open to a new opportunity. So even though they're open to speaking, remember that they're currently employed, that they're not looking, that they're probably very happy where they are, and that they're going to be extremely picky about making a move. So it can be kind of hard to get these candidates to make that move over to your company. In your outreach, you might reach out to those super passive candidates. So you find people that are perfectly content with their job, and they're not interested in moving no matter how wonderful your company is and no matter how amazing your opportunity sounds. So that's why in your initial conversation, you should let them know that you want to hear back from them even if they're not interested. You want to be doing a little bit of networking here. So by getting them to respond, you can build a relationship, and perhaps they'll send you a few of their networking connections, or maybe they'll think of you when they are ready to make that move. So the more communication you can have with a new lead, the more likely it is that they'll warm to you and that they'll remember you when they do want to make a change. So those are the four groups of the candidates here. So we have the active candidates who are actively looking for a job. We have the semi-active candidates who are just thinking about moving. We have the passive candidates who are employed but are open to new opportunities. And then we have those super passive candidates who are employed and are not currently considering a new opportunity. So we discussed some of the nuances that you need to keep in mind with each of those groups, but there's a lot of overlap as well. So let's go ahead and review some of the big things you should be including in your recruitment strategy to make sure that you're getting the best talent possible. First off, you want to focus on your employment brands. This is going to be the biggest thing that runs throughout all of your all of your recruitment strategy, and that each and every single candidate will be looking at. Your employment brand is what makes people want to work for your company and also what makes them want to stay. So a little food for thought is that 86% of employees are attracted to companies by their development opportunities. So you can see that your employment brand and things that you offer and things that make people want to join your company and stay are really important in making sure that you can always recruit that top talent. So make sure that you include things that make your company a great place to work in all of your job postings so that active candidates can see why they should apply to your company. Include them in your outreach when you're proactively sourcing candidates, whether they're active or passive. You want to make sure that you're always including your employment brand so that people are compelled to respond to you. You want to make sure that your employees in your company believe in your employment brands because they're the ones that are supposedly living and breathing it. And you want them to share their experiences with their friends and family members, which can make for a great employee referral program. So if you always have candidates talking to their friends about how great their job is, how they love their development opportunities, how they have great benefits, how their employer really cares about them as a person, they're going to be sharing that information with active job seekers who are, asking if there are any positions. They would say, yeah, you really want to work here, here's why. They'd be talking to semi-active candidates about why they should consider moving over to your company. And they'll also be reaching out to those passive candidates, just bragging a little bit, making those passive candidates think twice about where they are and if they really are happy there. And they might convert that passive candidate into a semi-active candidate for you. 84% of companies out there believe that a clearly defined strategy is the key to achieving employer branding objectives. So you want to make sure that you actually take the time, think out your employment branding, and put a strategy together. It might be best planned if you start with your current employees and find out what they value about you as an employer. Some people might really value work-life balance, but others might prefer work-life integration. So, while some people are saying, I want work and my personal life to be separate, I want my work day to end at 5, some people might think, I'd really rather my life be integrated. I can take personal calls during business hours, and I check my emails when I go home at night. And everybody's going to be a little bit different in that sense. So no matter what your employment brand is, just make sure that it's clearly defined, that your employees agree with it, and that you communicate it with your potential future employees. You want to make sure that you're checking Glassdoor and CareerBliss to make sure everybody's, happy about working for you. You want to make sure people are feeling rewarded, and you want to make sure that your employees are bragging that your organization is an amazing place to work, because this is where you're really going to get the full benefit of employment branding. So once you know what your current employees like and dislike, and the kind of culture you have, decide, if you're happy with where it stands, and put your strategy together from there. And once you have that employment brand defined, make sure you share it across all of your social properties, which includes your website, your social channels, your job postings, so that you can reach out to both active and passive candidates through this. Because like we said, people are checking your employment brand before they even apply to a job, and passive candidates are doing that as well. As soon as you reach out to them, they go and kind of do a little bit of research on you to make sure it's worth their time to discuss the position with you. And an interesting tidbit of information is that 75% of Americans would not take a job with a company that had a bad reputation, even if they were unemployed. So you want to make sure that your reputation isn't keeping you from getting top talent, and this goes for both active and passive candidates. Your job postings are going to be mainly used for finding active candidates, but whatever you write should also be used within your employee referral program and to find the semi-active candidates. It might also be forwarded to passive candidates, so you want to make sure that they're really well written. We did a webinar on this topic 2 weeks ago, so I'd encourage you to watch that for a more in-depth view about how you can improve your postings, but I'll just go over the quick and dirty version here. For one, you want to make sure you have a straightforward job title. This is for active job seekers. They won't apply if they don't understand the job title, and they're not going to find it in searches. So if you have these top job seekers that might be potentially employed right now, and they only want to spend their time applying to the jobs that they're really interested in, they might just skip over your job posting if they don't understand what the title means. You also want to have a great opening paragraph, and this ties in with your employment brand. You want to make sure that you're talking about, what makes your company so great and how the position is going to excel somebody's career for them. So this is your chance to impress your top job seekers and make them want to apply for your position. So make sure that you use the space wisely and help yourself stand out as an employer. You also want to include a really concise list of required skills and qualifications, but focus more on the performance-based description. So, while it might be important that they understand certain software programs, you might want to say what the desired results from using those software programs are. So if you're looking for a marketing person, for example, you have to understand marketing automation so that you can convert 10% of the leads into paid clients. And that way you're really getting the people that know they can achieve those results and kind of weeding out those unqualified people that aren't really sure if they can do that. So you also want to make sure that you're listing your compensation, your location. Both are very important in helping job seekers understand what your position looks like and if it's what they're looking for. Even if you can't provide an exact number for compensation, at least mention something about it being commensurate with experience. And since job seekers don't all hang out in the same spot, you want to increase the reach of your postings by making sure they're optimized for search, and also that they're optimized for aggregators, and you should be sharing them across social media channels as well for extended reach. Now, social recruiting is a really hot topic these days, and for good reason. First of all, it's a really great way to share your employment brand, and you can also use it to share your job postings at scale. So both your active job seekers are using social media to see what your company is all about, to reach out to employees, to network with recruiters, to see what your job postings are. And then passive job seekers are utilizing social media, to see if somebody they know works at your company. If you reach out to them, they want to make sure that it's a good opportunity for them to pursue. So those active and passive candidates will probably be looking at your social profiles before they apply to a job at your company. So you should use them to share pictures of your employees at work, maybe some of your after-work gatherings. You want to showcase your culture and your unique benefits so that you can actually show your candidates what it's like to work for your company. You want to link those social channels all over the place, so include them on your website, put them in your email signatures, include them on your job postings. All of these things give candidates a chance to look at something fun, to kind of see what your company is about a little bit, expand their reach about your company. You also want to make sure that your employee referral program is social so that it's easier for your employees to find and refer great candidates to you. I recommend starting with, I would pick 2 out of these top 4 here. So the big social networks right now are really Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Google's really trying to make Google Plus a big one. It's important to use this channel because it makes your job posting show up a little bit higher in search engine results. But the reality is that a lot of people aren't on those right now. So, my favorite 2 are probably going to be Twitter and LinkedIn. I'd recommend starting with those 2 and kind of just getting the feel for it, and then adding in more social channels as you feel is appropriate. Social is also really great for proactive recruiting. So proactive sourcing can be used to find both active and passive candidates. While most of your active candidates come through your job postings, you might find that you're not getting the most qualified out of that bunch. Or you might accidentally pass right over them and let them slip through the cracks. As we discussed earlier, 80% of all jobs are filled by active candidates, and I think it's because they're easier to find and they're interested in speaking with you. So Bright has developed this tool, Bright Recruiter, that helps you find even more great active candidates. Our algorithm automatically matches your job description to our database of candidates to help you find the best fit for your position. Plus, all of our candidates have been active on the site in the past 30 days, so the response rate's about 30 or 40%, and this is the beauty of proactively sourcing for active candidates, is that you're going to hear back from a lot more. Many recruiters are also using LinkedIn, Boolean searches, and social media to find their active and passive candidates. So since roughly 26% of the workforce is not interested in discussing a new opportunity, and 37% are passive candidates only open to discussing an opportunity if it's better than what they already have, the response rate, if you're doing searches on basically the entire workforce, might be a little bit lower, which can be expected from any sourcing method, which includes passive candidates. As we discussed earlier, your employee referral program should be your primary method for recruiting semi-active candidates, so those people that are just kind of thinking about looking and are reaching out to their friends. Because what we're finding is that they are reaching out to their friends first before they do much else. So this is also a great tool. An employee referral program is also a great tool for getting your active candidates in because they often ask their friends for referrals as well. And then as we discussed for the passive candidates, an employee referral program can help your workforce convert passive candidates into semi-active candidates on your behalf. So according to a survey done by Sticky, 20% of employees refer a candidate because they care about their workplace and they want to help out, which is really wonderful. And then another 42% refer candidates just to help their friends out. So you're finding, most people in the workplace are willing to refer candidates either because they think that it helps you or because it helps their friends. So what you want to make sure that you're doing is, putting your jobs out there, making sure that your employees are aware of what positions are open and how they can refer their friends to those positions. So since even passive candidates can be swayed by their friends, a formal program can help your employees be aware of all of your openings and the qualifications, and they can help you find top talent from both active and passive candidate pools. When you're putting together your recruitment strategy, you should also take your application process into consideration. I actually used this slide on my last presentation because I think it's pretty funny and sadly fairly accurate. So, your application process, sometimes you make people jump through hoops. You make them jump over fire, and a lot of them just end up falling into that black hole there. So as we discussed, your active candidates are accustomed to applying for jobs, but your semi-active and passive candidates may not have a resume and may not be able to apply for your jobs the way that your active candidates do. Furthermore, 2/3 of your active candidates are currently working. So the best candidates aren't going to apply if the application process is tedious. They're just going to go elsewhere. They're going to pass over your job posting and find another one that's a little bit easier to apply for. So while it's okay to ask your active candidates for a resume, you might want to try offering an alternative for your semi-active and passive candidates. So that includes allowing them to apply with an online profile, such as their LinkedIn profile, their Facebook, or their Bright profile. And then you want to take yourself through your application flows to make sure that they're quick and easy and that it's clear what the next steps are. And then once you have your candidates that have applied from both the active and passive talent pools, you want to make sure that you don't lose those candidates and risk hurting your employment brand because of a poor candidate experience. So according to CareerBuilder's applicant experience study, 44% of candidates had a worse opinion of the company after applying and receiving no response. And then 32% were actually less likely to be a customer for that same reason. So when a candidate applies to your company, they want to hear back. They're interested in your position, and they actually, it kind of hurts their souls a little bit when you don't respond to them, even if it's just a simple, "We're sorry, we don't think you're qualified." And with the high volume of applications that come from the job postings, it's important for companies to have the technology in place to respond to them, even if it's just a generic response. And that holds mostly true for active candidates because a passive candidate is going to expect a little bit more than this. You've convinced them to look at your opportunity, even though they had no initial intention of looking elsewhere. So they want a little bit more hand-holding, and it's important that your communications keep them in a loop about the next steps. And this is important for all of your candidates. You want to make sure that you're communicating with them and that you're making sure that they understand where they stand in the process, even if it's just a simple email that says, "Hi, just wanted to let you know we're still in the process of reviewing other qualified candidates, but you are still a strong contender." Your interview also falls into the candidate experience. So you want to make sure that you're allowing a little bit of flexibility in your interviewing. For example, your employee candidates might not be able to leave their work, their job in the middle of the day. So you might want to allow them to interview at a time when it won't jeopardize their current position. So for example, doing a first round phone screen or a video interview instead of in-person meeting. And then perhaps offering either a weeknight or a weekend day per month that you'll meet outside of regular business hours for the candidates that really can't step away from their jobs. So I think that you get a lot more qualified candidates by opening up to people who are just really busy at work and can't meet during regular business hours, because this might be a deterrent for a lot of people that are passive or semi-active. They want to interview for your position. It sounds great. They love your employment brand. Their friends are referring them to your positions, but they just don't think they can get away with it at work without anybody noticing. So definitely make sure that you're always focusing on your candidate experience and what it looks like. Try and put yourself in the job seeker's shoes. If you were active or passive, what kind of experience would you expect? So that's it for today's presentation. Thank you everybody so much for joining us today. We do have these webinars every couple of weeks, so stay tuned. And go ahead and look us up online if you're interested. We share a lot of our webinar presentations, helpful articles, etc. on our social profiles. And I'd also encourage everybody to sign up for a free trial. So we're offering all of our webinar attendees a free 30-day trial. Most people will only get 14, but I just wanted to extend it out so everybody can kind of see the full benefit of Bright.com for recruiting those active candidates. You can register at bright.com/register/employer. And thanks so much again for everybody for joining us today.